but I might point out when I went to Dearborn, driving that, was up there. I don't know, man. I think the press thought I was crazy. I enjoyed it so much going up and your new EV factory and that Hummer.
What? Now, if that doesn't give you confidence in the leader of the free world, I don't know what does. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org, and we got a lot of important news to get into, as of course there's a full frontal assault to take away Joe Rogan from us, and in some instances they are already doing this, as we personally have been affected by this in an absolutely crazy way. We're even just mentioning Joe Rogan had our content taken down. So what are we doing? Mentioning Joe Rogan again. My Polish people are definitely stubborn and persistent, and I'm going to be playing up that stereotype today. As of course, there's a lot of other news to get into as well. And just jumping right into it, this of course is the latest video from the US president rambling about absolute nonsense incoherently, and this will be the man that will be picking the next Supreme Court justice, which he is pledging will be a black woman, which is extremely disrespectful to whoever he picks, as of course they will be questioning, hey, am I here because of the merit, or am I here because of how I look? Are you just using me as a political ploy, or do I deserve to be here? Now, of course, this is not the first time that Joe Biden promised to pick a woman of color to be in a position of power. He did this in June 2020 when he promised that his running mate, his vice president, would be a woman of color as well. He picked Kamala Harris, and that worked so well for him because everyone really likes Kamala. But if we're going to start picking people on their identities, why not Eskimos? Why not Native Americans? Why not non-binary people? But anyway, in other disastrous Joe Biden presidency news, we're also learning today that the President of the United States is creating panic in Europe as he is threatening to cut off a Russian gas pipeline into Germany if Russia invades Ukraine, which would only exacerbate the situation that much worse. As of course, why would you preemptively cut off energy and heat from your allies in the middle of winter? This, as the diplomatic situation between Russia and the United States is only made worse, as the State Department has just asked 24 Russian diplomats to leave Washington, D.C. and go back to Russia, destroying more possibilities of diplomacy here, as Russia is now conducting another massive, significant troop movement on the Ukrainian border. NATO and the United States are doing this as well. They're also sending lethal weapons to Ukraine, and the situation is getting more ridiculous from here, with even the Prime Minister of Canada chiming in, and it's most likely to deteriorate from here. Now, before moving on to our main topic, if you haven't signed up yet to LukeUncensored.com, what are you waiting for? We're going to have a really powerful video ready for you there later on today with what I really wanted to say, all exclusively on our own platform, where we get to say and do whatever we want. 3 master classes, merchandise only available to members, and a lot more upcoming perks, including live meetups and get-togethers, which will only be exclusively available to LukeUncensored.com. Now, I think it's very fair to say that there has been kind of an unraveling, an awakening for many individuals, especially for those people who have complied every step of the way and still ended up being affected by it, bringing forth a larger disillusion to the authorities that lied to them in the first place. Now, with this realization, with this latest variant, with this latest new scientific data coming forward, some countries like the United Kingdom, Ireland, the Czech Republic are acting reasonably, along with Denmark now, that is lifting a lot of the draconian emergency power nonsense that was enacted that clearly didn't do anything. Other governments, like the Canadian, French, and Scottish government, have declared that the emergency powers that they have given themselves, well, they like those powers. They want to keep those powers, and that those powers are going to be permanent for their governments when it comes to controlling the lives of their citizens. This, as the Scottish government is literally putting forward a bill making their emergency powers permanent forever. Here in the United States, we have a similar bureaucratic state that wants to keep all of its emergency powers, that wants to keep imposing their will on the American people, represented by, of course, Dr. Fauci and the larger bureaucracy, while, of course, there are some states and government bureaucrats fighting back against. Now, I think it's fair to say the people with the most institutional power, the biggest bureaucrats, are the ones that are fighting on behalf of the special interest, the multinational corporations that are literally acting on their behalf, as the FDA is officially asking a court of law to delay the transparency and accountability of large organizations like Pfizer. Literally, the FDA is trying to hide 55,000 pages of information related to Pfizer, and when government institutions aren't protecting multinational corporations, they're attacking people who criticize multinational corporations, like Joe Rogan himself, that has been attacked by many powerful institutions recently, and it's worth mentioning, especially from the significant statement made by Biden's Surgeon General, the U.S. government's leading spokesperson on the matter of public health inside of the federal government, was on MSNBC advocating for the censorship, the deletion of Joe Rogan's voice from the general public, specifically saying that big tech multinational corporations who are largely unaccountable, who have way too much power, quote, have a role to play when it comes to censoring so-called misinformation and curating, quote, accurate information to the public, after Mika Brzezinski, the person who said it was her job to control what people think. She's also the daughter of Zbigniew Brzezinski, not a surprise there, inaccurately conflated a question, specifically asking the Surgeon General how to, quote, push back on misinformation about the sickness that's being pushed by Joe Rogan. And again, the question was carefully curated and was an assumptive statement, not backed by any facts, not backed by any evidence, not backed by any data, but slandered Joe Rogan. And the response officially by the Biden administration, by the Surgeon General, to ask big tech to censor Joe Rogan is absolutely disgusting as much as it is dangerous. Human beings have critical thinking skills. We have the ability to discern information. Controlling information from top-down unaccountable sources is dangerous, and throughout recorded human history have led to atrocities. When you try to censor speech, debate, conversations, the First Amendment, you're creating a very dangerous situation that has been called on for by many corporate shills of the establishment, including CNN, that just called a recent Joe Rogan episode absurd and dangerous. I'm sorry. Hearing a debate that doesn't go along with corporate talking points is not absurd. It's not dangerous. It's about being an adult and having a reasonable conversation. Now, of course, Neil Young, at the age of 76, was also rolled out to call for the censorship and banning of Joe Rogan. He, of course, failed, and Spotify removed his songs from their platform, as of course they have an exclusive deal with Joe Rogan. That's an extremely lucrative deal for them that is helping them get tens of millions of viewers with almost every single episode of Joe Rogan, who is absolutely obliterating the corporate media when it comes to viewership, when it comes to the number of people that actually choose to watch him. Why do people choose to watch him? Well, he doesn't carefully curate his content to fit the establishment narrative. He has genuine, honest conversations that people relate with, since, of course, he's not trying to shove an agenda down your throat that would benefit the billionaire class. And whether it's CNN, Neil Young, the Surgeon General, also, by the way, Dr. Fauci, that previously attacked him, we have to understand that there's a full frontal assault, not just on Joe Rogan, but on your ability to be able to hear and discern information for yourself, for informed consent, for critical thinking. This is what is on the line here. Will they get away with it? Will they be able to censor Joe Rogan? Well, in some instances, they already did, as we were personally affected by the latest banning of information, as a number of our posts on Facebook were taken down, specifically mentioning Joe Rogan, because they were, quote, fact-checked by independent fact checkers and reviewed by them, saying that there were some unsubstantiated claims on the Joe Rogan podcast, even though they didn't really talk about. The organization that fact checked us was also an organization that was financed by a Google News initiative, and they have essentially deleted our mention of Joe Rogan from big tech social media. So is big tech social media taking orders from the Surgeon General, from Dr. Fauci, that keep attacking Joe Rogan? I would argue that's already happening. It already happened on Facebook with just simply mentioning Joe Rogan and, of course, his very important podcasts with actual medical doctors. This is the point where we're at right now, and honestly, I think we need to protect Joe Rogan at all costs. Right now, he is also talking about a very important issue that the corporate media is largely ignoring, and that, of course, is the trucker convoy protest in Canada. That is Ottawa bound and, of course, extremely significant, which is raising more attention on this very, very important issue, as the truckers are standing up for their own personal liberty, their own bodily autonomy, and the right to be able to exist in Canada, where the government demands you comply with their whims or else you can't work. GoFundMe, by the way, just froze over $5 million from this trucker protest that was raised for them for legal fees, as GoFundMe says that they froze the account so they could have a, quote, plan to distribute the funds in an honest and accurate fashion. Is there any foul play here? I don't know. I hope not, but who knows now with big tech social media trying to control what thoughts could go into your mind. They want full total domination of your existence, and they can if they could control what information you can and cannot listen to. Again, you're a grown man or woman. You have the right to decide what is right for you as an individual after hearing both sides of the story. They don't want you hearing both sides of the story. They want you hearing their story. They want you only believing them. They want you subjugated only to them, and they could do that if they control information. This latest stand here, this major battle, is not just for Joe Rogan, but it's the future of speech. That's my perspective. If you think I might be too sensationalistic or hyperbolic, let me know down in the comment section below, but I don't see this in any other way. I got a lot more to say about this, plus a lot more, which I'm going to be talking about exclusively on LukeUncensored.com. I hope to see you there. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys actively watching, sharing, and participating in this independent media project. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.